This fourth example is taking what we did in example number 3, study number 3, and now doing a full game from move 1 until the end. This is once again a subscriber level game. This is not a Magnus game. This is not a Gotham game. I do not take responsibility for the blunders that you might see. But this was an instructive game. It was a instructive intermediate game, and it's good to learn from games like this. So, white began with e4, black played the Sicilian defense, white played knight f3, and now knight c3. Which I think is kind of a sign of a player that doesn't exactly know what they're doing. It's not a blunder, but if you're going to play like this, you can play the Rossolimo Sicilian, you can play the open Sicilian, you can play the Alpin Sicilian style, like this and this. Knight c3 is just sort of like, okay, I mean, you know, we'll see. And now d3. Okay, so white doesn't really know their openings, but that's not the point. d5 here is the best move for black. Well, we're sort of going for the middle game now. Bishop f4. White is just sort of, yeah, you see, like, this is why you have to know your openings. Because otherwise, you're not really playing with a plan. A couple of moves ago, you played d3. Now you're like, meh, actually, I should play d4. So my complaint here is not plans-based. My complaint here is more that black doesn't, I mean, black seems to be playing okay. It's white who really doesn't know their openings. Black strikes me as a Sicilian Khan player. In the Khan Sicilian, there's, or the Taimanov, black plays e6 and then a6. This is how black plays the Taimanov or the Paulson Khan. So I'm assuming that black went into that because that's kind of what they play. d6. This is called hedgehog. So in the Sicilian defense, there really exists one major plan for white, which is castling queenside. Black will keep the king in the center or castle short side. Again, information that really you should have in your mind before you enter Sicilian defenses. So let's do that. So knight takes c6, right? Let's keep going. Knight takes, after knight take, apologies, my screen lagged and I got a little bit perplexed. Black plays d6 and white doesn't know about this just yet, and they decide that, you know, they want to do this first. If any of you are wondering why the fork did not happen, it's because white would take the knight, which attacks the queen. This no longer has a guard. This. And even in this position, this is not a threat. You would just take and then move the bishop back. But we have this, and now... Okay. So white doesn't exactly know how to handle the Sicilian. That's fine. But rather than castling or finishing development, white decides, I'm going to play e5. Now, you would very quickly discard the move e5 on account of the move d5. And it's a little bit hard to evaluate here, but this center is just good for black. Black has very good counteraction to your light squared bishop. You block your own bishop. You gave black central control, which black did not have a move ago. Black did not have any central control. You made it kind of easy on them. e5 is a move that you play in a very opportunistic way. You go e5, after this, I go here, 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 and I'm better. And then you play e5, but you don't, as we've learned throughout this chapter, you don't need to do that. Just finish your, like the bishop should go to d3. Just play bishop d3, castle, move on with life. e5 is a bit short-sighted. Nice response by black, and now white plays queen g4. Again, you can play bishop d3. Queen g4 is a good move. It targets the pawn on g7. Now, if you're going to play queen g4, you need to have a plan ready for when black plays the move g6, because that's what black is going to play. It's very unlikely black loses the right to castle. It's also very unlikely black undevelops the bishop. It's also very unlikely black misses that this is a threat. You also have to be ready maybe for the move g5, which is actually very, very hard move to see. But the point is that now you actually use the queen and the bishop as an asset. And here's a very nice way that white can lose the game. Oops. And then you even can get your queen trapped. Look at that. How did that happen? Right? Black just used those pawns like, you know, like dynamite sticks. And this is all stuff you have to realize when you leave a bishop out there like that and the queen comes out. But g5 is a very hard move, and it's far more likely that you'll face the move g6. Okay, so what's the plan? Is it to castle queenside? Is that why you got your queen out? Okay. But as white, you have to realize this is a problem, okay? And if you're going to castle queenside instead of castling shortside, you have to understand what black wants. And I got news for you. Black wants rook b8. That's what black wants to do. That's like if I was playing black here, I'd play rook b8, not even think about it. Now black plays h5. Again, a bit of a short-sighted thing. You play h5, you feel good about yourself, and maybe you'll develop your knight, but that's not what the position demands. You are not stronger here. You do not want to play where you are not stronger. You are strong in the center, and damn, you are strong over here. This b-file rocket ship, queen a5. These are all moves that you should be considering if you are playing with the black pieces. It is an incorrect plan for black to play h5. Is it a losing plan? No. White slides back with the queen, and black continues developing. I got news for you. White doesn't have a whole lot here. White played in the opening in a very uncoordinated way, just sort of developing pieces, but white is a good enough player that they didn't lose any material, they didn't make any horrible mistakes, but now they're sort of out of options. Center's closed, they don't have a lot going on here, and their pieces are sort of out, but without a purpose. Now, there are some ideas here for white. White could try to move out of the way with the queen and the bishop and try to launch some pawns forward. Because, to be honest, if you don't launch these pawns forward, I don't know what else you can possibly do here. Trading pieces is not going to help you. You can try to use the coordination here and play the move knight e4. It's an interesting idea. Black cannot take, and you can then try to jump into the black position, but black is going to go here. And let's say you kind of hang out. I mean, okay, these things are possible, but what happens when the queen unpins? Now the knight is threatened. If you go here, I take. You go here, I take. White's position is not very good. White's position is not very good because white was playing in an uncoordinated way earlier, not creating good plans, not knowing the opening that well. So white plays h4, just tries to match the energy. Black plays knight f5. And now, again, black should not be playing on this rectangle. That's not where black should be. Black needs to complete. The position's frozen. Black needs to go over here. b6, a5, rook b8, etc. a5, bishop a6, something, right? But black starts taking. This is not, even though that's a free pawn, it's an incorrect plan because you need to be focusing on the queen side. That is just. That's where the plan, that's where the gold lies. But okay, black is playing in an incorrect way, but is black doing anything wrong? No, actually, black is a pawn up. White plays g4, and now things are going to start getting crazy. So the point of g4 is to make this trade and make it very tough for black to move, because again, black took the poison apple, which was the h-pawn. Black open up on the side of the board they should not have tried to open up on. But black sees that and plays the move bishop g5. Nice move. Basically saying, I'm targeting your bishop. If you take me, I take with check. And I'm not going to move my h-pawn. You can get into all this. And yeah, white is in trouble. I mean, white is doing very poorly here. What should white do? Well, if you study the piece trade chapter, which if you're using this as the free sample course, you don't have access to it, but if you actually bought everything, then, you know, life is good for you. You know that initiating trades, I'm always a little bit against being the one to do the trade. Like, if you have a way to keep the tension among the pieces here, that's probably better. Taking this knight and losing this with check, and then this pawn, bad. So white can play something like queen f3. This would be nice, or queen h2, because this stays, and this is still a threat, and the knight has to go back. Black bit off more than they can chew. Now they're going to have to deal with dark squared problems. And let's also remember, which of black's pieces, rather bishops, is the better bishop? It's this bishop. Because every pawn that black has is on a light square, which means black's light squared bishop is miserable. Black's dark squared bishop is holding the position together. I mean, this position is Swiss cheese without that bishop. So black has to be really certain that this is the right way to play. Now, white just takes, king b1, and black's like, well, I can't take on g4 because of the pin, so I'm going to back up. Now, what's going on when this move happens? This is under attack, okay? You can just defend that, or you can defend it with the queen and then try to build up more with your pawns. Here, I got very upset when I saw this move. White played pawn takes h5, which is just not acceptable, because the whole benefit of having this pawn is that black cannot take you, and the knight has now been kicked out, and you're under attack here. You need to find a way to get these pieces out of there and not get I mean, at least your queen, one of your pieces has to stay on the h-file, but this is, you can discard this move just on account of rook takes h5 coming. And then you're going to lose this pawn. You're just 2 pawns down. I mean, that was the side of the board you were supposed to be stronger. You were stronger. You were pushing your opponent back. And then just pawn takes h5, and, well, now black's just 2 pawns up. And you'll notice that black doesn't even do this, because black doesn't want to deal with that, even though it's actually not losing. Even though, believe it or not, the king is actually safe in the center because of how good black's structure is, which was given to them by white when white played the move e5 like 20 moves ago. Okay, white's whole plan of e5 was based around getting captured, but not this. And now we get all the way down here, and black's just 2 pawns up. White takes the rook, black takes with the knight. Black's position is a spectacular position. Now black can play bishop d7 and rook b8. Listen, if I'm playing with white here, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to get this knight and try to attack on the h-file. That is basically the only plan that white has. White can try to trade the queens and try to hold the endgame down 2 pawns, but that's very miserable. White plays bishop e2. Black plays bishop d7. I would go rook b8. I don't know why black's just refusing. And now, again, I don't understand why black is refusing to play rook b8, but even these 2 moves, which I disagree with, are very good because black is fine. White plays queen d3. Okay, now it's very clear that the intention was to take this. But this move allows knight f4. Just very short-sighted planning here by white. So far, black has played a great game. Queen to g3, keeping a good tab on this and this. And now, from this point forward, a switch flips in white, just completely flips. And I have to give a lot of credit here to the subscriber playing with the white pieces, because their homework after this game should be to not make such simple plans relying on what your opponent doesn't want to do, and anticipate what they do want to do and play against that, but also learn something against the Sicilian. But here they start playing very well. So they disallow this. That is a high-level move, because they could have very well gone here, gotten hit with this. Now the knight has to go, they lose the bishop, and the game is just over. So instead of that, they go here. That's a great move. Excellent move, disallowing knight takes. Now black plays this. And now white avoids getting the bishop taken, because if you ever want to make a comeback, you need some pieces. Bishop f3. Now black plays rook b8. And unfortunately now, white's streak of doing good things very abruptly comes to an end, because white in no way, shape, or form anticipates what the threat here is, and just plays rook h4. And white tries to attack the knight, but that doesn't work for 2 reasons. Number 1, which is not the best reason, is just e5 or g5. It's really just, it's that simple. But the second reason is, this pins the pawn to the, I mean, this is actually winning a knight, because this is mate. So this knight can be taken, but that's checkmate. Now, credit to white for not resigning. What white does now is basically says, all right, game is over, but I gotta just give some checks, and then, you know, we'll see what happens. And if black wants to win this game in a simple way, what black should do is bring the queen back, and then just win the endgame like this. Just up 2 pawns, just rook and bishop, and this armada just comes down. There is nothing that white can do here. Maybe some miracle, but unlikely. What does black do instead? f6, which is not a bad move. Now white plays rook h7 check, also not a bad move. But now disaster starts striking. So there is a checkmate here, right? Black needs to play moves that either trade queens into a winning endgame or save the king. So, for instance, in this position, black can try to play the king to d8. Mate is still threatened. If I take this, this is mate. If I try to check the king, black can just block. Black basically needs to avoid a situation where they get checked. And if you find yourself in that situation, you have to just make sure you're not losing any pieces and game is over. Black starts losing their mind here now. Black plays f6 and this and gets hit with a check. So now you're x-rayed. The queen is hanging. Two things at play here. Black plays e5, completely oblivious to the fact that white now has queen takes f6. And it goes from bad to worse because black tries to run out with the king, just thinking, I have mate, it's all good, but white keeps giving checks. Black is not thinking about white's checks. Black runs to the center. Because if black had ran this way, the rook would have been blocked. Oh my goodness, black did not, and now rook h4 back. Black just was not thinking about the checks of the opponent, and before black is able to give this mate or this mate, suddenly black has lost the queen and resigned. What happened? I mean, black played a fantastic game of chess and then suddenly completely stopped thinking about what the opponent wants. All the opponent has is checks. You cannot desperately run around just hoping there are no checks. Literally, the only thing that will ever save white now is giving checks. And credit to white for finding all those checks, for not resigning in a fit of anger. This was a very nice example of black's play until about move 28. And then black got hit with this check and just totally panicked. Blundering queen f6. Sometimes you don't need tunnel vision. There was too much tunnel vision of the mate here, and black thought, oh, I'm just gonna escape, I'm gonna escape. No, and they never escaped. They lost all their pieces and they resigned. Just play the best move. Get out of there. Stop the check. You can take with the king. Oh, you can't take with the king. By the way, I spoke too soon. I'm gonna leave that in as an instructive moment. I spotted that instantly. If you take with the king, you might not be losing, but because you have so many pawns, but you're gonna lose your bishop. So take with the pawn. You gotta be anticipating what your opponent wants to do. Right, like these are the things you need to anticipate. What does your opponent want, and what is the only thing that they have in the position? And black just decided, I'm gonna run around, and they lost the queen and had to lose the game after playing 27 very, very, very good moves. So this game was kind of a fuller example of not great plan making from a lack of understanding in the opening. Also sort of over-relying on the opponent's plan, not playing plans on the correct side of the board, trying to play where you're not as strong, not leaving the position alone, but rather taking a pawn and opening things up. The trading of pieces that could potentially damage your position. Which of your two bishops is better? And for white, it was a lot of one moves. A lot of one movers. Pawn takes pawn earlier in this game. You know, just a one attack on a piece and just the pawn break. And for black as well, taking the pawn on h4 was very risky instead of just building up an attack. So games like this have so many elements that you can improve on so you don't make the same mistakes multiple times.